Inside this room, all of my dreams become realities, and some of my realities become dreams.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You are listening to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. Here are your hosts, Alan Sanders and Walt Murray.
Welcome back, everybody, to The Wilder Ride, where we are getting wilder by the minute, a podcast where we break down and celebrate the films of Gene Wilder 1 minute at a time, and we're in the midst of Season 1 dedicated to reanimating young Frankenstein. I'm your host, Alan Sanders.
And I'm your co-host, Walt Murray.
And a couple of folks joining us again who know something about big, giant monsters, well, leaders of maybe road warrior gangs. We've got Rick and Julia from the Mad Max Minute. Welcome back, guys.
Hello!
Hello!
Great to have you joining us here again for this Wilder Ride, and we are exactly, well, it's hump day, where it's Wednesday, we're in the middle of the week, and we are exactly now halfway through Young Frankenstein with minute number 53. Walt, when we first started this, we thought 106 episodes, that's going to take forever, and here we are already halfway through.
Yeah, I can't believe we're halfway through. This is just flying. I mean, this is such fun and such a great movie. And honestly, when we started, I was wondering if breaking it down minute by minute, if I would still enjoy the movie as much as I did before. And I'm really finding that I like the movie even better breaking it down minute by minute.
That's a good question to ask you guys, because you have done now two full movies, and you're into the third one at the time of this recording. Did you have that worry, or did that actually happen at some point? Did you find yourself not maybe enjoying a film as much when you got toward the end, doing this minute by minute breakdown?
I think one of the problems you find in, well, life in general is that sometimes when you take too close of a look, the veneer and the shine of something tends to fade away. But one thing that I'm finding, because we're right in the midst of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, which a lot of people do not see as the shining pinnacle example of the Mad Max series, but the closer we're looking at it, the more I'm actually appreciating it. There was one character in particular that I didn't quite care for on casual viewing, but now on as far as close examination is concerned, I'm actually coming around to the idea of him.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Tina Turner. Okay, I'm good.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too, is that if you like Tina Turner better, maybe you ought to take a second look.
Actually, I don't mind Tina Turner in that. I understand what was going on there. It was kind of neat to see this idea that maybe celebrity, I know she's not supposed to have been a celebrity, but the idea that maybe somebody who was famous in real life could command this kind of post-apocalyptic town, even though she's really more of a figurehead. And I kind of saw maybe where they were going with that, but it always felt a little forced. It felt like the dialogue in her scenes was forced, almost like you're not quite the actress that we needed.
Kind of like Tom Petty in The Mailman? Or The Postman, or whatever that horrible disaster was.
That was not a bad movie.
Okay.
That was not a bad movie. Wait a second.
It was no Waterworld.
Oh, that's a bad movie. Oh my God. Can we get back to a good movie?
You're welcome.
Julia, what about you? We heard from your husband, but what about you as far as breaking movies down a minute at a time? When you first even heard the idea, was it intriguing to you? And then is it daunting now? Or what are your thoughts having gone through 2 and now 2.5 movies?
Well, an interesting thing that happened to me when we were reviewing the first movie, there's the opening chase scene with the Knight Rider. So we're going through it 1 minute at a time. And that chase scene lasts for like 18 or 20 minutes.
Wow.
We spent
weeks
talking about the opening chase scene. It got to the point where it felt like that this is just the movie. The movie that we are watching is about this particular chase. And that's all there is, because we just spent so much time on it. So it exaggerates individual events in the greater narrative. It makes them feel much more important than if you're just watching the movie. It comes, it goes, you move on.
Yeah, there are several minutes in Beyond Thunderdome alone that are just walking around the desert minutes. There was a span of, I think, 2 solid days of content in the first movie where it was just Steve Bisley riding his motorcycle. And that's all it was. So
wow,
those little instances, just like Julia said, they get amplified when you're stuck in a situation where you're only seeing that 1 minute.
Now, let me ask you how you approach your minute by minute, because what we try to do here, which is sometimes hard to do, is stick to just this minute, as if we don't know what's coming. We don't know how to watch this minute in context with the whole movie, so that way we can sort of, quote unquote, be surprised on where characters end up or where they end up going. But it is tough to do when you know a movie backwards and forwards, inside and out. What's your approach? How do you guys try to handle those minutes at a time?
I think we handle minutes with a sense of omniscience.
Omniscience is good.
Yeah. That we know what's going to happen. We know the fate of characters. We kind of take that into account, but at the same time, trying to judge them only on what we've seen so far.
Right. Go for it.
And I think we contrast those two ideas a lot.
Yeah, we will take a situation that we're looking at and do a sly wink and a nod because we know what's coming down the road. It's just we want to pretend that we don't. For instance, our first week of content for Beyond Thunderdome, we don't actually see Mel Gibson's face until minute 4. So that first entire week, we get to be all coy, be like, oh, who is this man dressed in black? And such mystery abounding. We spend that whole episode up to the point where he reveals his face to just playing fun at, oh, who is this?
And I forgot to do it half the time.
Yeah.
And boy, does he need a haircut.
Yeah.
Well, Walt, for you, because and we're going to get to the minute. I love taking a side jaunt from time to time. It's a nice stroll through Transylvania. Some of these rabbit trails are really fun to explore. For you, Walt, because one of our worries was, will we lose the humor? Will it stop being funny? What do you think?
No, not to me. I don't think so. I think that even being able to break down the jokes a little bit more and, and we even had the one early on in minute 7 or 8, I think it was, with the Chattanooga Choo Choo tie-in that I knew there was...
minute 15.
Minute 15.
Yes.
So I knew there was a joke there, but I didn't know what that joke was, and going out and kind of figuring that out. And I think one thing about this movie, if we were doing a more slapstick kind of movie, or maybe a movie that didn't have the smart humor that this movie does, it probably would not be as good. We would...
So we're not doing Men in Tights?
No, we're not doing Men in Tights. But a movie that doesn't have smart humor, where this is really smart humor over and over again, and we've also talked about how we have the bait and switch constantly of, is the tension builds, is this going to be a joke, or is this going to be a jump scare? Where are we going with this? That I think brings a richness to our show, just at the very nature of it as we talk through these things. So no, this has continued to make me appreciate the movie, the acting, the production more and more. But I think a lot of that is because it is such a good movie.
Well, we talked about this when we decided that this would be the first one we would do, is that I was less familiar with Young Frankenstein than I was with Willy Wonka, Blazing Saddles, Silver Streak, some of the other ones that I'd known and watched over and over and over. This one was sort of more toward the back of not rewatchability, because there is a rewatchability, but that I would go back and rewatch on my own. I'd always go back to Blazing Saddles. I always go back to Willy Wonka, but I rarely go back to this. What I have discovered, which I've absolutely loved, by delving deep into each minute and seeing the setup of the jokes and seeing the writing and the craft and the filmmaking, and how you said, in one moment we're in a monster picture, in the next moment we're in a comedy, and we're in a comedy monster picture, but they're both equally good, and they both are working, consecutively, so that pendulum keeps swinging. When I went back, my second daughter, who hadn't yet started to listen to the podcast, she said, well, I want to watch the movie first, and she wanted to watch it with me. I was giggling with jokes I already knew were coming, thanks to all of the work here, a minute at a time, and appreciating the setup. And so I think in this case, it is working for me. I'm very much into this, and I can't believe we're already halfway through. It feels like time is flying by, and part of me is like, I got to get caught up on editing.
Right. Well, and also, as I'm watching our listener comments and engaging there too, seeing the things that some of the listeners are catching and commenting on as we go through.
Or interpreting differently than us.
Or interpreting differently than us. Or that they agree with you and not with me.
Which is rare.
So far.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see the audience pushback you got back got on the train station scene.
Oh, well, Elizabeth.
With Elizabeth.
Yes.
Yes.
It was interesting, but I'm totally right on this one. So, and we had
it was also very interesting to sit there and listen to those episodes with Julia because she was piping up with comments
That's
as we were
why
listening.
I joined the listener page.
She wanted to make sure that people were putting you guys in your places.
And they were, so I was satisfied.
But Julia, what without getting too far into it, what are your thoughts on Elizabeth?
I did agree with some of the things that you said. You know, she's shallow, she's vapid, but I think specifically about how she didn't want her hair touched or her nails touched or her dress touched, all of those things, I'm totally on board with her because her
hey, Rick, take note.
Her profession is being a socialite. She had a previous engagement to be somewhere that night, which means she spent all morning probably in a salon getting her hair and makeup done. That cost her money and time. And now she has to go off to see her boyfriend off. And that's cool, but then she has somewhere she has to be, and there are elements of her future that depend on being impressive at her evening's activities.
Yeah, so it was more of a moving up the social ladder situation, more so than skipping around behind Frederick, as far as we interpret it.
Well, I guess if you're only, nailing somebody 7 or 8 times, that really isn't technically doing anything wrong. Sorry. Well, you know what? And I love the conversation on this because you can kind of look at it either way. And I don't disagree that you can justify that that's the way to look at it. And I'm coming at it from a perspective, if you are saying goodbye, and we're not talking about, today, even though it's 1974, he's going to be taking a train. He's going to be gone for at least a few weeks. Here's this woman who's supposedly agreeing to marry him, and they were supposed to get married, and that's why he initially didn't want to even go to accept his inheritance. If you remember, we talked about that deleted scene. He was trying to explain to Falkstein, I'm getting married. I don't have time. And Falkstein says, you'll be back in a couple of weeks. I'm thinking, so you're ready to marry this guy. You're ready to give, you bet your boots I'm all in, and yet you don't want to even give him a goodbye kiss. You don't even want to catch his kiss he threw at you, which made me think, there's gotta be something here. She really doesn't care about this guy besides maybe the stature and using him. She's probably got, she takes care of business on the side.
Well, I still just kind of go back to, he is going to Transylvania to basically get a gigantic check written to him. Mm-hmm. And that's, it seemed to me is what's really important to her is the stature and the wealth and everything else that comes with being married to a doctor and, someone like Dr. Frankenstein. And yet she still isn't even playing the game with him. Her clothes and her appearance are more important than his wants and his desires. So anyway, I think I'm over.
Wait a second. Why are his wants and desires more important than hers?
No, I'm not saying that.
You did say that, actually. You said those exact words.
I say, let's roll back the tape.
Okay, so in editing, I did not say that. No, I think what I'm trying to say is, as a couple, they're the most odd couple you'll ever meet because, she doesn't want to touch him. She doesn't want to, the things that are important to him.
She spent a lot of money on all that stuff.
I think the important thing with this train scene, which is nowhere near what we're actually supposed to be talking about, I will admit
to minute
that.
14 now.
But I have no idea.
But you needed to establish early on that these two have a weird relationship, so that way later on in the movie, when things break down the way they do, you don't look unfavorably on the two of them. Because they were more or less on the outs to begin with.
Oh, I think we did that, don't you?
Well, yeah. I
we think so. I think we did call them like two passing ships. How did they get together? They they don't seem right for each other. He seems to want one thing from her. She wants something else. Neither one really understands. But he's kind of all in because that's expected. And she's putting up the socialite appearance because that's sort of what's expected. So they're doing what's quote-unquote expected, but neither one of them really belong together.
Yeah, and maybe I was a little bit too hard on her.
He wants to be.
He wants to be, and she does not have any interest. But, also he has desires and needs that she isn't fulfilling, and he knows that, and he still continues on with the relationship.
Yeah, she's got
To
plenty
make
of other
another
guys.
reference to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Friedrich and Elizabeth are kind of like two giant ships in a Venice port, and they're
Don't
getting
go
pushed
between
together by these tugboats that are just the influence of society. And like in Last Crusade, some, I guess, Austrian or German descended woman is going to come between them. And there's going to be some
Come between
sparks
them?
and
Are you
explosions
crazy?
that result from that.
All right. Well, this has been the longest I think we've ever gone before I actually introduce what we're talking about today. Which, if we're in a post-apocalyptic world or Transylvania, neither one of them follow any kind of rules of modern decorum or society, so why not go ahead and just break the rules here? But we are in minute number 53, and let's get back to Igor chewing on his big chunk of potato, and we're going to end with Igor and Inga, both of them commenting, "It wasn't me." So let's start off in this very moment where we've got a very long pause as Gene Wilder and this is what I don't understand. We know the advice he was going to give in the last minute. It sounded sincere because he says, well, what did he say? And he says it with such genuine, I'd really like to know, help my hurting. And he says, what are you doing in there? Why do you have to lock the bathroom door day and night? Give someone else a try or turn. We stop. And he considers this for a good 4 or 5 seconds before he eventually goes, oh, maybe it's better this way. How does that lead from the advice that he was just given? Oh, maybe it's better this way.
Yeah, I'm just kind of struck by the complete change of his demeanor here. That he's all of a sudden gone back to kind of the happy Dr. Frankenstein that we've seen earlier, instead of being in kind of the depths of depression. And I don't think all that happened just because of Igor's story.
Well, I think that comes right after we do they're eating dessert. I mean, he's still kind of down at the very beginning of the minute, but we've got that pause where he's considering. You can see he's considering what Igor has said to him. He's given this ridiculous advice about locking yourself in the bathroom. Give somebody else a turn. And his very first thing is, after pausing and considering, is, oh, maybe it's better this way. I don't understand how the one triggered the other.
Well, I kind of see it like he's resigned himself to the fact that this first experiment failed. And that's not the end of the line either. He goes on to say, the poor lifeless Hulk, maybe it's better off dead. And I thought that was an excellent little shout out to Marvel comic history, because the poor lifeless Hulk was the failed comic book character that Stan Lee tried to do before he eventually settled on the Incredible Hulk.
Wow. Though, when you hear the word Hulk, I can't help but think of the green monster going smash. Seriously. As
you got a big green monster here.
You were so convincing saying it. I was like, is that what they were going to call him initially? The poor lifeless Hulk? Yeah, it didn't really sell so well on the
first
stands.
scientist, he got a massive dose of gamma radiation, and it just killed him right out.
I've got an idea for a comic book, all right? There's this guy, and he dies. That's it.
And that's the end.
Stan, how do you write more? Let me think about it. How about we call him the Incredible Hulk?
I'm Stan Lee. It's going to sell.
It's going to sell.
Excelsior.
Well, we've just brought all the comic book nerds back around full circle, and they've left the room.
Yeah, we're going to hear about this.
Yep, I can hear it now, as if 1,000 angry keyboards are clacking away.
Yes.
We're suddenly silent. Wow. I wonder how many more references we can work into this week's episodes of The Wilder Ride.
We're only halfway done.
I was going to say, we're on a roll, man.
We are. We're going to need a bigger boat. All right. So, Julia, let me ask you, does it work for you hearing Igor give his dad's advice, going back to eating his potato, and it leads him to finally accept the fact, oh, maybe it's all for the best, maybe it's better that poor grotesque Hulk, maybe he's better off dead?
Yes, it really does work for me, because the doctor wanted a piece of wise advice from Igor and Igor's father, and he got nothing. So he internalized that nothingness for a moment and then decided there is no hope. There is no wise advice that can fix the situation. This monster is better off dead.
Yeah, I think if we could have heard his internal conversation, it was just, oh, okay. And, it just kind of threw the switch.
Am I the only one? Yes. And it's okay if you say I am. But am I the only one that the minute I hear he's better off dead, that I'm waiting for the kid on his bicycle asking for his $2 to show up?
And that was the first thing I thought when I would listen to this minute again last night.
I want my $2. Oh my gosh. All right, good. Because, when I hear that phrase, because we don't hear that phrase, it's not a contemporary thing. Maybe he's better off dead. We don't just say better off dead. All I can think of is John Cusack, Better Off Dead, the movie.
Which is a classic. Another classic.
Well, it is. Okay. It is good. There is no doubt about it.
Yeah,
have you guys seen it? Guys? You still there?
Hello?
Y'all have not seen
I'm
Better
sure
Off Dead?
I have, but I don't recall. I'm just barely too young to have watched the Brat Pack and all of those movies. So some of them I've seen, most of them I haven't.
Okay, I never do this, but I'm going to diverge for just a second.
Oh, yeah, we never. As the first 13 minutes of this particular episode have shown, we rarely ever diverge from the script.
Yes. Watch Better Off Dead whenever you get a chance. I think it's going to hold up. I think the humor is gonna be good. It's not one of the kind of like this. You don't have a bunch of Ronald Reagan jokes or any.
There's nothing really, that's contemporary to what was happening that day.
Right. It is just a good, funny movie, and the acting in it is great. The writing is great. The humor is great. There are a lot of just well played one-liners, and I think that you would love that movie. And I think if you love Young Frankenstein, you would love that movie because there is kind of some of the subtle humor, some humor that you kind of have to think about for a second. It is a great movie.
And then there's obviously the slapstick kind of stuff, too.
A lot of slapstick stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to give it 2 thumbs up. From what I remember, it's been a while since I've seen it and gone back to revisit it, but it's very, very good. And if you don't understand that reference to my $2, you'll remember that from now on.
Absolutely. And there's some good music in it, too.
There is.
And somebody did a minute-by-minute breakdown of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are they done?
Is there a Better Off Dead minute?
There is.
I think there is.
Yeah, I don't know if they're done yet.
There might be done now.
Huh. See, there's so many good ones to go. I'm going to put that on my list now. Dang it. You guys come first, though. Trust me.
Okay. As long as we come first.
Better Off Dead minute. Yes, there is. There is the Better Off Dead minute. That's cool. Folks, if you want to know about all these other movies, go to moviesbyminutes.com. We'll give them a free plug right here. All of the Movies by Minutes can be found there. Just start typing the name of your favorite movie, and it'll pop right on up. Well,
Better Off Dead Minute is co-hosted by previous guest on the Mad Max Minute, Curtis Blaze.
Oh, sweet. So you guys had him on yours.
Yep.
Excellent. So you had him on, but you guys haven't seen the movie.
It's not the first time that's happened. I was a guest host on an entire week of the Minute Impossible podcast, and I have never seen the Mission Impossible movie from beginning to end.
Wow.
Wrap your head around that one.
I am. I'm trying to. It's almost like getting advice from Igor. I don't know what to do with it.
Perhaps it's better off that way.
My internal conversation was, okay.
Moving right along. Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see. Well, I do like this transition because he does come to terms with the fact that maybe it is better off this way. Maybe it's better that I don't head down this path. We don't have this rising Hulk downstairs. And then we immediately shift to downstairs. And there's the obligatory... Is this something... Let me ask you guys, because we're all movie buffs here. Obviously, we wouldn't be doing this if we weren't movie buffs. Every single time I have ever seen a movie that I can recall where we're going to try to show that something's not dead, it always goes for the fingers.
I wonder if there's something scientific about that, about the fingers moving before the rest of the body is able to move.
What it reminded me of is in the scene in the original 1931 Frankenstein, they go right to his fingers, and that is the first thing on the reanimated monster that moves. So this, I think, is an homage to the 1931 Frankenstein.
Well, and we know that they've done this in several places where there's very similar scenes to the original, and of course there's interspersed with all of the original Universal Monster Pictures of the Frankenstein series or franchise. But even then, in 1931, the idea was if something's coming to life, you show the fingers? Why not show the eyes? Why not show a foot? What is it about the fingers? It's like in everything, even The Walking Dead, when you think somebody's going to be coming, like early in the seasons, if somebody was dead and all of a sudden they're starting to come to life, it's like they show the finger twitch. It's like it's a universal trope, apparently, that as something is either not dead or coming awake or coming back alive or something, some monster has been awoken. It's something about seeing the hand or the fingers first.
I'm just waiting for Rick's insight because I have no idea.
Well, I can't think of any other explanation other than it's a reference to that first movie. You know, the idea that you had Frankenstein just head down on that slab right next to the hand and then the hand starts twitching away. I mean, it could just be that they're paying homage.
I don't know. I mean, it could be, and maybe. Well, here's a crazy thought for the podcast. Maybe the original Frankenstein may have been one of the first movies to do it, and it was such a well-known movie, and everyone was really. I mean, Mel Brooks was scared to death as a kid having seen Frankenstein. I mean, he convinced his mom that they had to shut the window to his bedroom because he was scared Frankenstein was going to come get him. And if enough people were affected by this, quote, monster movie, and everybody was like, that's what freaked him out. The tension, the suspense that was there seeing it, we didn't get to see the whole monster. We're seeing just the fingers. Maybe it made such an impact in terms of storytelling and movie making that this is sort of like, whether we realize it or not, that's what we all kind of go to now.
Yeah. It's kind of like the gag in scary movies where the person will open the medicine cabinet, grab something out of the medicine cabinet, and then when they close the door again, there's someone standing behind them. It's just one of those well-worn and not necessarily in a bad way, but well-traversed paths that everyone just is able to easily walk and recognize.
Well, this is definitely moving more, Walt, to that monster movie moment, because right after we see the depression, he's accepted it, and even though he's accepted it, the irony is, of course, while he's accepting the fact that this hulking beast is better off dead, here he comes back to life. But it is still a monster movie moment right here. There's nothing funny about this. There's just, we're seeing that, oh my gosh, it's coming to life.
Yeah, but it is kind of overlaid by the conversation that's going on upstairs. And the conversation between...
Well, that's where it starts to head.
Yeah, between the folks upstairs. But you have, even as he's come to the realization that this has not worked, the beginnings of life in the monster.
Now, there's something interesting here that they did not do more than the hand in this final cut. The script actually did call for the camera to move along the fingers all the way up to the head to suddenly see the eyelids fluttering but not yet opening. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they needed to do that extra. I think just the zoom in on the hands and seeing the fingers start to twitch was enough. I think that would have lasted a little too long. We get it. He's coming back to life.
Yeah, we know what's going on. And of course, we also have the moaning going along with that.
Well, let's cut to that right now. Just after we cut to the hands and we see the fingers start to rise, and I'm hoping there's no significance with the fact that we really see kind of like the middle finger more prominently than the other fingers.
I noticed that.
It does sort of like say "F you" to the watching audience and maybe to Dr. Frankenstein himself. We do cut back, and Walt, this is what you kind of started to say earlier. All of a sudden, after coming to this realization, maybe it's for the best, Dr. Frankenstein is heartily enjoying his dessert.
He is.
He's all in now. He's happy.
Yeah, and he even says, I'm not much of a dessert person, but, this is excellent.
Yeah.
Now, who made this dessert?
I'm wondering if it's Frau Bluka. We don't know what she really does around the castle.
Yeah, she seems to be the maiden of the house. I would assume that's who made it.
Or do they keep a staff somewhere, but we don't know who they are? They're all trapped downstairs.
People we've never
They're
seen.
all chained to the kitchen desks.
They all got cut out.
But no, somebody must be taking care of the spread, because this isn't the first time we've seen an ornate meal. We saw breakfast the night after they discovered the manuscript and the How I Did It by Victor Frankenstein. It was a big spread. This wasn't, just a couple of muffins and some tea. I mean, they were serving full-on kippers and plates and trays of food.
I certainly can't think of anyone else who would be a better fit for a chef in that castle.
Frau Bluka. Well, this dessert here, and we're going to have a chance to learn a little bit more about it, but he calls it the Schwarzwalder Kirchtort. Something. Apparently I can't say it very well either. Schwarzwalder Kirchtort.
I think you nailed it.
Maybe. I wasn't sure what this was, so let's take a moment and head over to our counterpart to the Wilder Ride. We've got a buddy of ours in Germany, Malta Dirks, who's going to tell us a little bit about this dessert and whether or not there is such a thing and what it's made of. And let's hear what Malta has to say.
Guten Abend, meine Damen und Herren. Yes, this is Malte Derks again, live from Germany, the official German translator and friend of the Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. Here's what's going on in this special moment. We see Frankenstein's creature slowly gaining life. Meanwhile, the dog is eating with Inga and Igor, and they're all enjoying a famous German dessert called Schwarzwälder Kirschtorte. Frederick does a pretty nice job of saying the German name, but it still sounds very flawed. He uses an A where he should use an E. E is a mutated vowel, and given the nature of this genre, one should expect the main cast to be able to correctly utter mutated vowels. But let's talk about it, the dessert itself. At the moment, I'm actually pretty close to a region called Schwarzwald in southern Germany, which you guys might know as the Black Forest, and it's the home of a very popular but special dessert called Schwarzwälder Kirschtorte, which became very famous in Germany in the 1930s. It translates to Black Forest cherry cake, the official translation being only Black Forest cake. People don't eat it all the time, but I would say the average German and perhaps also Austrian eats one piece at least once or twice a year, given that it's the most beloved cake in Germany. It's not the cheapest dessert if you buy an original piece, but it'll be even more yummy then. Its most important ingredient are cherries, then there's lots of cream, chocolate cake, and some chocolate flakes, along with the occasional trace of alcohol, more specifically a cherry brandy. That's what I can say about it. It's pretty tasty, that's for sure. I would say it's in the same zone as tiramisu and trifle. Just imagine eating sweet cake while Frankenstein's monster is just around the corner. You better be drunk by then. Now, I could brag on about how early German cinema influenced the horror genre that we know today, and that the German film industry, whom I'm a part of, should get back to being as inventive as 100 years ago with films like Nosferatu, but Alan wanted me to talk about the cake only, and that's no problem. Piece of cake. That's all I can chew on for this minute. This has been your German counterpart to the Wilder Ride. Back to you, Alan and Walt, and your guests, Julia and Rick.
Wow, well, there you go. So Black Forest cake, it's got cherries in it, it's got chocolate flakes, maybe a liqueur around it. Actually sounds darn good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there was a German family in my neighborhood growing up, and so I can understand why they enjoy this so much. The Black Forest cake was awesome.
Let's take a moment then. What would be if we all, cookies, pies, cakes, there's all kinds of desserts, but if you could pick like a fancy dessert, like something that's opulent like this, like black cherry cake, Walt, what would be one of your favorites, or what would be in that top tier of your go-to desserts if it didn't mean you having to bake it?
Chunky Monkey ice cream by Ben & Jerry's.
Are you serious?
Man, have you ever had Chunky Monkey ice cream?
You're going to go with Chunky Monkey Ben & Jerry's.
I don't know.
I think about it.
I have
Julia,
a sweet tooth, but it's always ice cream.
Julia, what about you?
I think I would have to say, oh gosh, what's the restaurant? It fell out of my head. Olive Garden used to have a chocolate lasagna that was all the different kinds of chocolate all layered together, and there was cream in there too. It was, my gosh, it was so good.
The creature downstairs.
Yeah. I do remember that. That was amazing.
So it was so good they stopped carrying it.
Exactly.
I think so. And right before they stopped carrying it, I discovered that you can pre-order like a sheet cake size for it was probably incredibly expensive, but you could just buy a whole chocolate lasagna. I'm like, that's what I want for my birthday. Just plant that thing in front of me, and I don't want to do anything else. Just a whole chocolate lasagna, a fork, and some privacy. And I would be so happy. And then they discontinued it.
Julia would go into a room, lock the door, and she would fork the chocolate lasagna.
7 or 8 times and goes and brags about it to her friends.
Yes, there are many complaints online of their canceling the chocolate lasagna.
Wow. Rick, what about you? Is there a decadent dessert that comes to your mind at the top of your list if you could have it?
Well, I'm kind of an anomaly of a person. I'm not a huge fan of the texture of cake, but 2 things that I love are brownies and ice cream. And so one year for my birthday, Julia did this thing where she used her springform pans to make layers of brownie. And what she did is she stacked up those layers, and in between those layers, she filled it in with ice cream. And then put the whole thing together as a sort of cake. And so you cut into it, and it's essentially like eating big old slices of brownie, and she used like 2 or 3 different types of ice cream, and it was delicious. And probably one of the best desserts I've ever had.
Wow.
Oh,
and homemade.
Right.
I will never make that again.
See?
It was a nightmare.
It tasted so good because it was made with love.
I'm glad you liked it.
He's looking at her like, wait a minute. You're never making that again? I hope you enjoyed it, big boy. It's never coming back. Well, for me, I've realized growing up, I'm a pie guy. I like pies more than cakes. I do like all the things you've mentioned. I would eat. I'm not gonna send it back and say, "Oh, take this away." But a good pecan pie with a scoop of ice cream on top.
Right, a scoop of Chunky Monkey ice cream.
Not Chunky Monkey on pecan pie. Vanilla bean or French vanilla. But I also love tiramisu, which is what Malta said is another thing that's a favorite dish and a favorite dessert. But love tiramisu. I think that's really, really good. All right.
Well, no arguments there.
We just had a little side discussion about our desserts. Okay, so let me ask you this question. They're eating this, and suddenly we hear the voice or the moan of the creature from downstairs, and they immediately assume, or Dr. Frankenstein immediately assumes it's Igor giving what he calls, quote unquote, the yummy sound. I didn't know that's what that was called. I didn't know that was the scientific term.
That is the scientific name.
The yummy sound.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is.
Well, I think it's less awkward than saying, I heard you moaning.
I heard you, Igor, from over here, I heard you moaning with pleasure.
I guess he came out of the bathroom. But it is a very funny moment where the mistaking of because we as the audience know where the moaning's coming from, but they're mistaking where the moaning's coming from, and mistaking it as being the moans of, this is good, and it's not. And they have this back and forth discussion between Inga and Igor. In fact, it's actually a back and forth. Initially with Igor, was like, well, I just heard you, give the yummy sound. I didn't make the yummy sound. Well, then who did? And I do like this moment because all of a sudden the levity is back in the scene. They're happy. They're having this joke. But I just found it interesting that they used this term, the yummy sound. I know exactly what they're talking about when they said it. But I don't think I've ever in my life, in fact, I'm positive, I've never used that phrase, the yummy sound.
Even having 3 kids, I don't think I've ever used that term either.
Kids?
Yeah.
Does that make you do the yummy sound? No, it makes you sound like you're especially if it's somebody else's kids, you're going to be going somewhere. They're going to take you away.
Yeah. You're a very disturbing person.
I have a question about the script. Does he say the yummy sound or a yummy sound?
You just made a yummy sound, so I thought you liked the dessert. Igor says, I didn't make a yummy sound. I just asked what it was. Freddy says, but you did. I just heard it. Igor, it wasn't me. Inga, it wasn't me.
They're just one, it wasn't me, short of a Shaggy song.
It's a shame.
So
I'm much more comfortable with them saying a yummy sound as opposed to the yummy sound. Because a yummy sound just means that he's interpreting the sound that he hears as indicating that Igor is enjoying the dessert, as opposed to the yummy sound, which is insinuating that there's only one interpretation for the sound.
That there's a universally recognized sound that someone makes when they're enjoying food.
Yes.
No, I'll go with that, although we are hearing him come to the conclusion that the sound he's hearing must be the yummy sound, or a yummy sound.
A yummy sound.
I want to go back really quickly to the hand for just a moment, because, Walt, remember when we had Susan on back in the 3rd week, I think. It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Minutes, I think, 11 through 15. We were talking about music, and she goes, "Oh yeah, this movie is the use of the oh-doo-doo music.
That's
like
right.
When things are about to hit the fan, you've got either the dun dun dun, or there's the flare of trumpets, or there's something to indicate, ooh, this is something to pay attention to. And we've got that when we push in on his hands start to move. We get the oh-doo-doo music.
Yeah, and very appropriately so.
Now, I know you guys probably don't use that terminology in the Mad Max Minute, the oh-doo-doo music.
No, we've referred to it as the dun-dun-dun in the past.
Well, that would work.
Because
That works.
it does have a place in the second movie, The Road Warrior, because in, let me rack my brain here, minute 10, the first time Max sets eyes on the gyrocopter, there is a quick little dun-dun-dun that they throw in there.
Ah, excellent.
The gyrocopter.
That seems to be universal as well. I wonder where that came from initially, where that sense of like the 3 or 4 beats of music, in Young Frankenstein, we've got the dun-dun-dun, and then dun-dun-dun, or whatever. There's this ominous beat where we realize, oh, this is, pay attention. Because we didn't know that a dead man's hands suddenly wiggling, that's high tension. We need the music cue to let us know. I often wish that I'd hear this before I walked into the room when my wife is angry, so I would know what I'm in for. Usually I don't get that audible cue. I just walk in and realize it's suddenly very cold in here.
I think we've all been there.
Rick, do you have a comment on that?
Nope. No, I do not.
Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
I've at times gotten that when my kid's school's phone number pops up on my phone.
It's like, oh man, what did they do?
Bum, bum, bum. This is not going to end well.
Yeah, it's like that old joke. I think it was Ellen DeGeneres had said we should all have our own theme music, so that way we know the kind of person that walks in the room. You know, when you've got somebody who walks in the room and it goes like, like, oh, there's a clown. That's a kind of a fun guy. And then you've got the other person who's like, dun, 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 dun. Like, oh, crap, I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's going to take me a while to figure out what my theme music would be. There are a lot of choices.
What would be your theme music?
Crazy train.
You have to consider how it's going to be interpreted by the rest of the world. Like a Star Wars fan could pick the Star Wars, the dark side theme.
Oh, the Emperor's theme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Emperor's theme, and they think it's really cool. But then other people hear it and are instantly on guard or afraid.
They think it's cool, and then they wonder why they can't get a loan at the bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, you walk up to the branch manager. Dun, 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 dun. I want my loan. Get the hell out of here.
Like, you just feel like you would give them the money, and then it would just blow up in their face.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as we begin to close down this minute, because we've still got a couple more to get to that we want to before the end of the week. We are, as I said at the very beginning, halfway through this movie, and it is only just now, Walt, halfway through, that we realize the creature is in fact coming to life.
Yes, he is, and we see the fulfillment of everything that Dr. Frankenstein has fought against, and it's about to get nuts.
Let's get nuts. Now I'm suddenly back to Batman 1989. Let's get nuts. All right, guys, from the Mad Max Minute here, we've got Rick and Julia. Anything that you have in your notes that we didn't cover in this minute?
Nope, that just about covers everything I've got.
Yep, I'm good.
Walt, anything you've got?
I got to get out of here and get some Black Forest cherry cake before I
that would be nice.
lose my mind.
I would give it a try. I don't think I've ever had black cherry cake or black cherry forest cake.
Black Forest cherry
Black
cake.
Forest cherry cake.
It's amazing.
Well, I will give it a try sometime. Well, guys, you were joining us from the post-apocalyptic wastelands of 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. You're in the Mad Max world. Where can people learn a little bit more about Mad Max by the minute?
Our home on the internet is madmaxminute.com. We're also on Twitter at madmaxminute and Facebook by searching Mad Max Minute. And we've got our listener group, Mad Max Minute Beyond Microphone.
Walt, what about us?
The best way to find us is to go to thewilderride.com. From there, you're going to find all kinds of links to us on Facebook and Twitter and all the other great places that you can find us. And just about now on any kind of podcatcher, whether that be Stitcher or iTunes or any of your other favorite podcast catchers, Easy for me to say. And of course, all of our episodes too can be found on our website.
If you haven't already, go out there. We've got a general Facebook page that helps to announce our episodes and has some basic information, but we have a listener group as well, and we'd love for you to be part of that listener group. It's a closed group, so, we screen people with a rigid application. Only takes 3 questions, or in Julia's case, ignoring those 3 questions, and we still let her in anyway. But if you just pop in there, we're having some great discussions, and if we've missed something or you disagree, we engage with our listeners because we love you guys being out there, and thanks for being part of this Wilder ride. Come on back tomorrow because we're going to kick off minute 54 with Dr. Frankenstein asking, look here, if it wasn't you and it wasn't you, then who was it? And we will end with a very childlike look from the Frankenstein monster. All of that coming your way tomorrow on the Wilder ride. Until then,
Schwarzwalder Kirschtorts. I nailed it.